Welcome to some more Corpse Party, Book of Shadows. Anyway, let's play. Gonna hop into chapter 3 here, Encounter. If you do enjoy, leave a like.
天神5番地のこれ23だよな。それとも33か？まったく山崎先生の字は読みづらいな。
This really wasn't my day. I knocked over my alarm clock this morning, and of course it stopped working. The very last pork sandwich sold out right before my eyes during lunch, and I was roped into the favor when I happened upon my homeroom teacher, Mr. Yamazaki, long after the school day had ended. So now, like it or not, I was on my way to deliver some notes to Mrs. Yui, our homeroom TA, who was out sick with a cold.
ゆかに謝らないとな。今日は早く帰ってゆかの買い物に付き合ってやる予定だったし。天神5番地23の11、ここか。これが6番地33の77とかじゃなければ。だけど
I stopped and compared the memo in my hand with the apartment building in front of me. It was 2 stories tall and looked a little on the shabby side, sorry. Stabby comes soon. Now it's shabby, you know what I'm saying? Probably about 20 years old. It didn't seem very solid, nor was it particularly stylish or chic. It was a completely unrememberable structure in every way.
207号室いや201?
I was really getting fed up with his handwriting, and from a teacher, no less. In any case, it seemed certain that the apartment was on the 2nd floor, so I trudged up the startlingly narrow, steep stairs. The metal staircase was thoroughly blotched with patches of rust. Why would someone live in such a ran-down apartment building?
先生の給料ってもしかしてすごく安かったりするのか?
I felt a little sorry for her, but in a way, this place kind of fit her personality. With the thoughts in mind, I turned my attention towards the apartment 201.
ここが201号室か。でもゆい先生の家じゃないな。
The door plate for the room nearest to the stairs had a name, and I didn't recognize the scribble on it.
ってことはこの奥か。
Passing room 201, I continued down the narrow walkway towards the end. Wandering alone around an apartment building I'd never been to before made me feel kind of nervous. It wasn't like I was doing anything wrong, but my back still tensed up as I maneuvered around the piled up strollers, plastic toys, and bundles of newspaper. And then finally I arrived at the lost door.
ここだ。
This was it. I breathed a sign of relief. The door plate for apartment 207 read, Shido. For an adult's handwriting especially, the letters were rounded and overly cutesy. This was Mrs. Yui's place, alright?
なんだろうこれ。
I leaned in to read something written in small script on the corner of the door plate.
要注意って猛犬注意じゃなくて ゆい先生らしいや。
So how exactly does one beware of a house cat? Is it even possible for a house cat to be threatening? At any rate, I confirm beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was Mrs. Huey's place. So my errand was nearing its end.
それにしても山崎先生もひどいよな。風邪ひいたクラスメートにプリント持っていくならわかるけど、風邪ひいた副担の先生のうちに授業のノートを届けろって。絶対におかしい。間違いなくこれ担任の仕事だよ。
He'd said that he was busy with meetings, though, and really needed one of his students to help him out. But was it really okay to entrust a school student with confidential class notes?
生徒が読んじゃまずいノートなんじゃないのか？
My mind kept drifting from one question to another, and I'd become actually aware of the inherent value in these notes I held in my bag. But tempting as it was, I just couldn't bring myself to look at them. Mr. Yamazaki put his faith in me after all, and I was stronger than that. I couldn't let this get the best of me. At any rate, I was here. I should have just been able to drop off the notes and be on my way. Putting all my doubts and misgivings aside, I rang the doorbell. And then I waited, and waited, and waited some more. But there was no answer.
俺、呼び鈴をしたよな。ゆい先生！
Why are you shouting, dude? They have a doorbell. You rang it already? I rang the doorbell again and also tried calling out. Yeah, why are you calling out, dude? But there was still no response.
どうしよう。寝てんのかな。起こしちゃ悪いけど、でも心配だしな。
You don't want to wake her? Bro, you rang the doorbell. If she was sleeping, she's awake now. And when we heard that Mrs. Yui was staying home sick today, we were all pretty disappointed. That's why part of me was actually a little happy that I was asked to run these over to her. I figured I'd be able to check in, see how she was doing, and let everyone at school know that she was feeling better.
会えないっていうのは想定外だったな。ゆい先生！ゆい先生！反応なしか。
Literally 2 sentences ago, he's like, I'm not gonna wake her, and now he's doing this.
ゆい先生、すみません。
She was probably sleeping, or out for the doctors or something. But what if she were hurt? I tried opening the mail slot and peeking in. I thought maybe I could get a glimpse of the room inside.
ゆい先生。
It felt wrong peeking into someone's house without their permission. But I was legitimately worried about Mrs. Huey's health. So my conscience was clear on this one. Beware of cat, bro.
猫。
A well-groomed cat was facing the door, staring back at me. With its head tilted slightly to the side, it let out an adorable meow. This must be the cat I was instructed to beware. And since Mrs. Yui was always going on and on about her little buddy, I was pretty sure I remembered his name.
この子が噂のモレじゃなくて、確かモネ。そうだ、モネちゃんだ。へえ、綺麗な猫だな。
Monsieur talked about her cat a lot in class, so pretty much the whole school had heard of him. She even had some tons of cat food hidden on the shelf in the classroom, probably because she brought too much and had no room for them in her apartment. Really? How small is your apartment to not have a 10? Enough for another 10 food. Think about that.
モネ、モネ。先生はいるか？先生がいるんだったら、起こしてきてほしいんだ。モネ、頼むよ。やっぱり無理か。そりゃそうだよな。
My shoulders sank. I felt defeated. What the hell was I doing? I closed the mail slot and stood back up.
弱ったな。ゆい先生、どうしたんだろう。どっか外出中とか？空いてたりしないかな。
Lost in the speculation, I placed my hand on the doorknob, and with a quick twist, I turned and pushed on the door, opening it easily.
え？鍵かかってないのか？うわ、いけねえ。モネが出たら大変だ。お前のご主人様は不用心だな。鍵もかけてないなんて。
Mona's whiskers twitched as I called out to him from the entranceway.
なんだ？その通りだにゃって。モネもやっぱりそう思うか。
Here I was talking to a cat. Was this what I'd become?
どうしよう。
I was feeling pretty uneasy. Not only had I peeped into someone's home, I'd walk in without a second thought. Moreover, this was Mrs. Yui's where Mrs. Yui was lived. Alone, in other words, a woman's apartment. No matter how many times I reminded myself that I was here on an errand, I couldn't help but feeling that I'd only crossed a line, but leaped over it.
Yui sensei.
I tried calling her name one last time, but as expected, there was no answer.
本当にどうしようかな。
I was trying hard to avoid being too nosy, but my eyes inevitably began surveying the room. The apartment entrance led out immediately into the kitchen, and beyond that there was a sliding door to some other room. I could see light throughout the gaps. I strained my eyes, but there was nothing to hear. No signs of life whatsoever. This Yui really must have been out. One more time, I tried calling out her name, calling out to her one more time, but to put my concerns at ease. I felt that I'd seem even more suspicious if I stayed silent.
Yui sensei, Mochida desu.
Still nothing. Maybe she was asleep on the other side of that door.
確かめてみ。いやいやいやいや。
Shaking my head furiously, I cast out a sudden impulse. That was a terrible idea, pure and simple. Entering the apartment unannounced was bad enough, but walking all the way in, opening the sliding door and peeked inside? That was too much.
っていうか、このタイミングでユイ先生が外から帰ってきたりしたら、俺結構まずい。じゃなくて、だいぶまずい。
Mona mewed, as if in agreement. Panicking, I was again surveying my surroundings. I almost felt like there were eyes on me, staring with disdain. But of course, nobody was there.
あ、そうだ。書き置きを残していけばいいんじゃないか？
Wondering why I didn't think of this sooner, I dug into my bag for some paper and pen.
山崎先生から頼まれたのでって書いておけばいいんだよな。俺のノートでいいや。ゆい先生
Crouching in the doorway, I ran my pen across the page. I brought class notes at Mr. Yamazaki's behest. Everyone has been worried about you. Sorry about barging into your apartment.
不用心だから鍵はかけた方がいいと思いますと。ん
As I was writing the door note, I sensed a presence in front of me. Until just a moment ago, this house had no signs of a human life in it. But now I could feel someone standing directly ahead. Standing and looking down at me. Fidgeting nervously, I put down my pen. Raised my head slowly. And I saw a white, slender ankle. Where? Shocked, I was shot in my head. What? Shot my head up, and there, standing before me, was Mrs. Yui. Goodness, if I see my teacher like this, bro. I'll get straight A's if you understand what I'm saying.
先生
She was looking right at me, but she seemed decidedly out of sorts. Her hair looked dude, it's so hard to read with that there, man. You know what I'm saying? Those honkas. Disheveled. Her gaze was unsteady, and her pajamas were in complete disarray. I was like a completely different person from the usual camped educator we'd come to know and love.
ゆい先生俺勝手に入っちゃって
I stood up frantically, and held out the note I'd been writing. But Miss Yui was just standing there, stupefied, with a completely vacant expression on her face.
先生
I called out to her gently as I could, but she was really dazed. She seemed almost like a ghost.
先生どうしちゃったんだよ
I had a sudden uneasy feeling. Worried, I wake up Mrs. Yui, grabbed her shoulders and tried to snap her out of it by shaking her. But instead,
うわ
this just seemed to make her cough. I'll make her choke like that with something else. You know what I'm saying?
先生
These were wet, productive coughs, and spit was shouting out of Mrs. Yui's mouth with each one. I frankly tried to shield my face from the spray, but the reaction time was just wasn't quick enough.
もう
I put my hand to her cheek and found her thick with a slimy film of saliva.
大丈夫ゆい先生
Miss Yui hobbled back a little and then fell to her knees with a thud. She had completely sprawled out in the hallway, moaning and groaning. the whole time. Wiping the spatterings from my own face, I leaned over and looked take a better look at hers. It was bright red. A strained breathing, a stuffy nose, and a visibly high fever on top of it all. And was sick as I could be.
寒いの? でも汗かいてるよ。
I thought maybe her sweat had cooled her down, but then realized her disheveled pajamas certainly weren't doing her any favors. With the heart pounding a mile a minute and face red as a traffic light, I set about buttoning her up. Button her down, dude.
ゆい先生、俺のことわかる？持田だよ。
If you're that cold, two human bodies against each other is actually very warm.
寒いならちゃんと布団で寝ないと。出ないと治るもんも治らないって。
She absent-mindedly extended her shaking arms like a zombie, slowly reopened her eyes, and looked up at me. It was the gaze of a severely fevered mind.
ゆい先生、
司くん。
え？うわ！
What the heck? Monsieur was clinging to me tightly. I couldn't move. I was frozen in shock. She began to weep.
Eh? Tsukasa? 先生待って人違いだよ
It seemed like I wasn't getting through to her at all. And the sensation of her chest as she held me was making it virtually impossible to fight her grip. I was utterly powerless against this opponent. I'd never realized before just how soft a woman's chest really is. God. Am I that weak-willed? I had to remind myself that Miss Yui had me confused with someone else. I wouldn't care. Mastering all strength I could, I gripped her arms and tried to pry them off me. But she was a lot stronger than I'd anticipated and wouldn't let me get away.
怖かった？
まさか来てくれるなんて思わなかった。
うわ！
As she squeezed me tightly, I felt as though my upper body might collapse under the pressure of her softest parts. I was blushing uncontrollably.
ゆい先生、ちょっと離れて。先生ってば！
I struggled to wriggle free, but Mrs. Yui only grabbed me tighter. Our bodies were getting more and more intertwined. And every time I squirmed, Miss Yui would just pull me in even closer. As her chest rose and fell erratically, droplets of sweat slid down into her cleavage. I could feel the heat of her fever radiating off her steadily encroaching face. as well as the shoulders I'd grabbed in the efforts to push away.
司くん、お願い。
だから人違い。
Questions were swirling around my head. Why was Mrs. Yui crying? And who was this Tsukasa person? But I was most concerned for the state of her pajamas, which had become even more disheveled during our struggle.
先生、パジャマ、ズボンずり落ちてるから。
司くん、あったかい。
ゆい先生ってば。
Realizing that as not a single word was getting through to her, I signed resignedly, I don't know how to pronounce that. I've taken care of Yuka any number of times when she'd caught a cold and drawn a fever, but I don't recall it ever getting this bad. Mizui was usually calm, collected, and rational. Who would have ever imagined that a fever could leave her so thoroughly discombobulated?
ゆい先生、ちょっと、もう。
I put more strength into resistance, and finally her arms relaxed just the tiniest bit, but her expression changed drastically.
やだ。
先生、俺は持田聡で、司って人じゃ。
行かないで。やだ。
Monsieur was acting like a spoiled child, slipping out of her shoes I'd still been wearing. I again drew close to her sprawled out form. There was no way I could just leave her here like this.
気がついて、怪しまないでくれよ。
Monsieur let out a lethargic groan, perhaps in response to my quiet murmurings. At my wit's end, I grabbed hold of her and did my best to carry her into the back room. Gently whirling her over to her unfurled futon, I then carefully laid her down, making sure I didn't drop her in the process. Then there was the matter of rebuttoning those pesky pajamas again. I hesitantly pulled up her pajama bottoms and brushed away the stray hairs that were plastered on her brow with the sweat. I'd done my best to avoid seeing anything I shouldn't, but I am a guy, so my heart was pounding the whole time. Mizui's pajamas were soaked through the sweat. She really might have been better off with a change of clothes altogether. But no, that wouldn't been going way too far.
タオルとか何か拭くものでもあれば。
Noticing a convenience store bag carelessly tossed in the floor, I glanced inside.
冷却シート買ってきてあるじゃん。なんで使ってないんだか。もう先生、ヒヤッとするけど我慢してね。これでよしと。
I placed one of the compresses on her forehead and pulled the covers over her. Miss Yui appeared almost instantly relieved. She was exhaled contentedly, and her breathing became more relaxed. Finally, she was asleep. Even in sleep, Miss Yui seemed to be suffering.
モネ、なんだ先生が心配かだよな。俺もここまでひどいことになってるとは思わなかったよ。
I moaned and had coiled up on my legs without me noticing. I began absent-mindedly speaking to him. He meowed in response, and our conversation ended there, as my gaze was still fixed squarely on Mrs. Yui.
さて、どうしようか。ゆい先生。俺、このまま帰っても大丈夫？
She wasn't in any condition to respond, but
ゆい先生。
Miss Yui had slipped out of under my futon and was gently grasping my pant leg. Our grip was much weaker than before, but I knew I'd probably regret if I went home now. Yes, you would. But Yui seemed really lonely.
仕方ないな。
Without disturbing Miss Yui hold on me, I took a seat beside her. With the time being, I figured I'd watch over her and make sure that her condition didn't worsen. Occasionally, Miss Yui's breathing would become ragged on. She'd furrow her brow. She was in a pretty bad way.
そうだな。
Wasn't there anything else I could do? I glanced quietly down the hallway. I'd noticed when I carried Miss Yui here that the kitchen near the entrance was perfectly neat and tidy. There wasn't any indication it had been used that day at all.
飯食ってるのかな？
But a gaze shifted suddenly. I followed it and saw pet bowls laid out in the corner of the room. One dish was filled to the brim with water, and the other was piled high with dry cat food.
なるほど。モネはちゃんと食べてるんだな。熱出してあんな状態になってても、お前のことはちゃんと考えてくれてるんだな。でもさ、ゆい先生、まずは自分の食事の心配をしようよ。
I shook my head at the whole situation, then glanced down at Monet, who was tilting his head as if he was trying to understand me. I broke into a wry smile. When I pulled out the cold packs, I didn't notice some cheap coincidence store food in my bag as well. I guess that was doing to her food for the day. Not exactly the best stuff to eat when you're sick.
米と、あと卵くらいはきっとあるよな。卵がゆでも作ろう。先生、キッチン借りるよ。
Her face was bright red and half painted, half contented noises, providing me with no clean out answer to my question.
ゆい先生の代わりに、モネに許しをもらおうかな。モネ、キッチンを借りていいか？ありがとう。
And when I cries how usage my guilt over entering a woman's apartment and borrowing her kitchen. Not that I had any reason to feel guilty. I don't think, anyway. I mean, circumstances were what they were. Still, I had a nagging sense that I shouldn't somehow felt bad about what I was doing.
先生、ごめんな。ちょっと離れるよ。
One by one, I gently peeled off each of the fingers latched onto my pants leg. The expression on her face changed as I was doing so, from contented rest to mild annoyance. But there was nothing to indicate that she might wake up.
よし、作るか。
As I stood up, Monet mewed happily and began tagging along at my heels. And Miss Yui, now resting by herself in the bedroom, let out a sudden sneeze. So that was the intro of episode 3, 36 minutes of reading.
ちょっとゆい
かかったよ今くしゃみ。
ごめんごめん、なんだか鼻がムズムズするの。まったくもう。ティッシュティッシュ、あれどこやったっけ。ああ、なければ私の使ってよ、せめてものお詫び。
やったじゃあ私使う。
私も持ってないよ。ティッシュちょうだい。はい。サンキュー。
Thank you.
あんたたちね、ティッシュくらい常備しときなさいよ。
面目ない。
まったく。それでそうそう、だからさ、とうとう3年になっちゃったよねって話。ああ、だね。あと1年で卒業か。卒業もだけど、私たちそれよりもっと考えなくちゃいけないことがあるじゃない。進路よ。いや、聞きたくない。正直さ、進路相談何回受けたって将来のことなんかはっきりしないっていうかさ。
だよね。どうするかな、ほんと。
ねえ、ゆいはもう進路とか決めてる？実はね、もう決めてるんだ。なにゆい、何になりたいの？私はね、私の名前は宍戸ゆい、17歳。将来の夢は先生になること。あまりよく考えずに人のことに首を突っ込んでは空回ってることが多い私だけど、でもそんな私でもきっと頑張れば夢が叶うって信じてる。急に呼び出されたから何事かと思ったよ。ある日の放課後、私は職員室に呼び出された。何かヘマをやったのかとか、成績が志望校に及ばないとか、そういう悪いことを言われるんじゃないかってビクビクしてたんだけど、私の予想に反して呼び出された要件はとてもいいものだった。
うちの学園からはライバルはいなさそうだから、このまま頑張れば推薦してやるぞ。だ
ってなんかやる気出てきちゃった。この調子で頑張らないとね。 それにしてもゴミ箱ってどうしてこんなに重たいんだろう。ゴミ捨て場まで持っていくのも一苦労だよ。
なあ。
突然声をかけられてゴミ箱を抱えたまま振り返る。それは今まで話したことのない男子生徒だった。彼は7組の三國司くんだ。
そこ、足元。根っこが出てるから気をつけな。
え？あー、
Dude, what laugh is this? Bro, was I muted all the time?
ちょっと、そこ笑うとこ？
だってよ。
もう、そこはさ、大丈夫かとか聞いてくれたって。
悪い悪い。
あ、いいよ、そんな。手が汚れるよ。
別にいいよ、そんくらい。笑った詫びに手伝う。
ありがとう。
うん。これで全部拾い終えたか？
もう大丈夫。
じゃ、行くぞ。
え？あ、
I remember it well, even though this was my first time talking to Tsukasa. And he left a strong first impression on me.
重たいよね。
別に。
やっぱり自分で。
いいって。はい、終了。
ありがとう。助かったよ。
じゃあな。
あ、ちょっと待って。
あ？
俺させてよ。
いいよ、女の。これくらいで。
いいから、ちょっと待っててね。
ん？
友達が増えるというのは嬉しいし楽しい。その相手が三國司くんというのも嬉しかった。司くんのことは実は少し気になっていたから。よいしょっと。
Most of the times I'd seen Tsukasa before this were in the school courtyard. He spent a lot of time there sitting alone on a bench. Even after school or during summer vacation, if I happened to pass by, I would always see him there. And after this little encounter, we'd go on to make many fond memories together. Yet somehow, the image of Tsukasa that stand out the most in my mind is him seated alone on that courtyard bench.
はい、どうぞ。コーヒー牛乳でよかった。
まあ、なんでもいいけど。サンキュー。
これは私からのお礼なんだから、黙って受け取ってくれればいいの。
義理がたいやつ。
We walked to the bench together, sat down and began making small talk. That courtyard bench was a soft and mystical place. The leaves rustled over your head, and if you close your eyes and open your ears, it felt like though you were in the middle of some forest. And if you looked straight up, the sunlight poured in through the leaves, and you almost felt like you were in another world.
初めて座ったよ、このベンチ。
なかなかいいだろ？
素敵な場所。
だよな。
あ、だからなの？
え？
この時間とか昼休みとかよくここにいるでしょ。
おう。
この場所好きなんだね。
まあね。
そっか。
The leaves rustled as a gentle breeze blew between us. We were both silent for a bit, but strangely, it didn't feel awkward or uncomfortable.
弾かないのか？
ね？
いつも一人で何してんだって。
この場所が好きだからいつもここにいるんだよね。
そうだけどさ。
他に何か理由があったりするの？
ないよ。
じゃあ聞く必要ないじゃない。
そうだけど、ほら普通聞くだろ。一人でそんなんつまらなくないかとか、意味わかんねえとか、変わってるなとか。
そんなこと思わなかったな。ここが好きなら一人でいたって別に変じゃないよね。
お前変わってるな。いや、そんな顔しなくても、今のは俺的褒め言葉だから。
変わってるが褒め言葉？
そうそう。
なんか納得いかないな。もう。
The expression on Tsukasa's face was a dead giveaway that he really enjoyed talking to me. And I've always loved the feeling I get when I know my words help brighten someone's day. I must have been sporting one hell of a goofy smile at that moment.
本当はさ、この学校でもっと好きな場所があるんだよ。
どんなところ？
秘密。
Is the boys' bathroom. You know what I'm saying?
とっておきだからな。
Oh, he's taking a dump there, yes.
ってことは、そこも超素敵な場所なんだよね。
ああ。
いいな。どこ？気になるよ。
ダメ。そう簡単には教えない。それに、いつでも見れるってもんじゃないんだ。そこの景色。
司くんは笑いながら紙パックのジュースを飲み干すとベンチから立ち上がった。そして目の前にあったゴミ箱をひょいっとつかみ、私を振り。
コーヒーをおごってもらったしな。ついでに教室まで運んでやるよ。
いいの？
ああ。
ありがとう。あ、私のクラスはね。
4組だろ？知ってるよ。シシドユイっつったら有名だからな。
どうして？
今から先生みたいな女子がいるって12クラス全部で有名だよ。
それから私と司くんは何度か中庭で会っては話をした。校舎の中ではすれ違ってもほとんど話すことがないのに、中庭では不思議と話が弾む。
あ、またお前コーヒー牛乳かよ。
うん。
好きすぎだろコーヒー牛乳。
そんなことないよ。
1日に最低2本は飲んでるくせにか？
なんで知ってるの？
自販機でいつもそれ買ってるのここから見えるんだよ。ほらそっち見てみ。
本当だ。
昼休みも放課後もいつもシシドがコーヒー牛乳買ってるのバッチリ見てたからな。
そんなことを言ったら私だって司くんがここのベンチに座ってるのいつも見てた。
いや知ってるけどなんでまた言う？
お互い気になってたんだなって思ったから。
なんだそりゃ。
中庭での会話はたわいのないものがほとんどだった。教室で友達と繰り広げる会話みたいにあんまり中身がなくて、でもすごく楽しくて。この場所夏でも結構涼しいね。
夏とか言うな。
あれ？夏嫌い？
夏期講習が目前に迫ってたら誰でも嫌いになるだろう。
まあね。 私たち3年生だもんね。夏だからって遊んではいられないよね。
お前は随分と楽しそうだけどな。
私は夢に近づいてるって実感できて嬉しいよ。
ふん。
私ね、人に勉強を教えるの好きなんだ。頼られるのも好き。
なんで？
お姉さんになった感じがするからかな。ほら、私一人っ子だし。
ああ、うん。まあ頑張れば。
はすっごいどうでもよさそう。
だって人事だしな。
そんなことを言いながらも、司くんはやっぱり優しかった。だって私の夢を笑ったりはしなかったから。先生になりたいって夢を話すと、大抵の人は笑ったり茶化したりで、あんまり真剣に聞いてくれない。だけど司くんは一度も笑わなかったんだ。
The season was quickly turning to autumn. After the school day ended, the senior floor was always a lot more quiet than its underclassmen counterparts. Everyone was off studying hard at the library or with tutors. So one day, thinking of no one else was around, I sat down in a lonely corner of the hallway. Initially, I had grabbed my shoes and left the classroom, intending to head home. But along the way, I just started crying. I was overwhelmed. My sobs echoed from one end of the hallway to the other.
この日、私は無事に志望校の推薦枠に入れてもらえることになった。嬉しくて仕方がなかった私はすぐに友達に報告した。けれどいつもなら手放しで喜んでくれるその子がふと表情を曇らせた。
私の前でそんなこと言うんだ。まだ私は夢も何も決まってないのに。
多分私はひどくショックを受けた顔になっていたのだと思う。巴はすぐにハッとしたように目を見開き、慌てて謝ってくれた。だから私も笑って気にしてないよってそう言ったのだけれど気にしてないわけがない。巴の言葉と表情が鋭い針のようになって私の胸をつく。私考えなしだったのかな。他のみんなも同じこと思ってた。
I kept wiping the tears from my eyes, only for new ones to take their place immediately. Why didn't I think of this sooner? So many people were still facing uncertain futures with no real goals in mind, and I was completely oblivious to it. I was the one with a dream, running around like a cock of the walk and blabbing about my successes and aspirations. I wouldn't blame them if they hated me. Could someone that insensitive to the feelings of so many other people really become a teacher? Did I even have what it takes to begin with?
シシド？
声をかけられて振り向くと、そこには司くんが立っていた。いつもは廊下で会っても言葉を交わすことなんてないのに、この日はごく自然に声をかけてくれた。司くん。
すごい顔だぞ。ハンカチは？
持ってる。
じゃあ顔拭けよ。
うん。司くんが戸惑っている空気がひしひしと伝わってきた。彼を困らせたくなかったから、私はこぼれ落ちていこうとする涙を必死に拭う。
何かあったのか？
何もないよ。
何かあったからそんなに泣いてんだろ？
これはその友達とちょっと気まずくなっちゃって。でもすぐに仲直りしたから大丈夫。これはさ、そう、嬉し涙みたいなものだから。
ふーん。
嬉し涙って言えばね、私推薦枠に入れることになっ。
I'm sure if I did it out of respect for Tsukasa, or just because I wanted to change the subject, but I cut myself off mid-sentence. I was doing it again. What was I thinking? Now even Tsukasa was going to hate me for being a braggart. Hell, I hated myself. I was the worst, just the worst. But
マジか。
he was happy for me, a bit taken aback. I nodded firmly.
やったじゃんか。おめでとう。
うん、ありがとう。
お、
ありが。
だからなんで泣くんだよ。ふぅ。まだ推薦枠が決まったってだけで推薦入試があるんだろう。嬉し泣きするほど喜ぶにはまだ早いだろ
そうだよね。でもそうやっておめでとうって言ってもらえたからなんか。
たく。
ごめんね。
何が？
泣いたりしてわけわかんないよね。
そう思ってんなら早く泣きやめって。
うん、もう大丈夫だから。
たく。
As I rumbled my swollen eyes, a smile broke through, and Tsukasa let an exasperated sigh. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, his eyes lit up.
そうだシシド、ちょっと待ってろ。
うん。
Tsukasa ran into the classroom, quickly reappearing in the hall again, and moments later, he was holding something.
お前にこれやるよ。
鉛筆？
In his outreached hand rested a short, stubby little pencil. Not the sort of a thing you'd expect someone to go out their way to lend you. It was pocketed here and there with small scratches, but it still seemed to be in a relatively decent shape considering how obviously well worn it was.
必勝鉛筆。
受験必勝？
これ使うと試験に受かるんだよ。
本当に？
ああ、如月学園に受かるのは難しいって言われてた俺がこれ使って受かったんだから間違いないよ。
じゃあこれ司くんが高校入試の時に使った鉛筆なんだ。
そう、経験新たかな鉛筆だぜ。
霊言新たかね。
あ、それだ。
それじゃあ借りるね。ありがとう。
言っとくけど貸すのは推薦入試までだからな。一般入試の時は俺が使うから返してもらう。だから推薦絶対受かれよ。
鉛筆を受け取り笑顔でうなずく。今度は司くんも笑ってくれた。
人の気持ちまで勝手に思いやって背負い込んで悲しみまで自分のものにして。
For a moment, I had no idea what he was talking about, but then it hit me. Tsukasa had somehow sussed out from our conversation that I was crying because I'd upset Tomoe. And he was turning that fact around to offer me encouragement.
負けんなよ。
頑張れって言葉は辛い時にはプレッシャーになるから言っちゃダメってよく聞く。けれど私はこの優しい言葉が大好きだった。私頑張るね、司くん。
おう。
この日から私はどんどん司くんに惹かれていった。彼は全然そっけなくてちっとも振り向いてはくれなかったけれど。
I can still clearly recall the events of the day. Events now. Even we could actually end it here, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy today's video. If you did, smash that like, subscribe if you're new. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.